All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. Chris Liza on CNN put out an article about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez again on the $40 trillion number, just a little while before we got on air. So we didn't have time to prepare the story, but it has put me in a mood. So if you like angry, Cenk, you're going to get some of that today. And Susan Collins, of all people, will unleash some of that. Her reaction to people actually contributing against her, but small dollar donations. She finds it unacceptable. She believes that the only kind of corruption that should exist is corporate corruption, which she participates in. And by the way, like if you actually care about an issue, she says, no, you're the ones doing corruption. It's maddening. Anyway, we'll get to that a little bit later. Campaigning while black, what does that mean? Well, a couple of different stories on that as well. And on Rebel headquarters tonight, Cameron Kasky, he is one of the founders of March for Our Lives. He was also on the Damage Report today, so check out Damage Report's podcast, and you can get that on our app. And of course, if you're a member, you get all these shows. Don't miss any of them. tyt.com/join to become a member. All right, Anna, take it away.
All right. The big question as to whether or not Dr. Christine Blasey Ford will testify in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Monday remains unanswered. And there is a back and forth currently taking place between Senators Chuck Grassley, other members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and the lawyers representing Dr. Blasey. And so first, let's begin with the update indicating that there is a deadline for Dr. Blasey, and that was determined by Senator Chuck Grassley. So Senator Grassley set 10 a.m. Friday as the deadline for Christine Blasey Ford's legal team to respond to his request for her to speak to the committee. That's not Friday of next week, that's Friday of this week, meaning tomorrow by 10 a.m.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Yeah.
And it means something, but it means that we're really gonna go on without you on Monday. That part I believe, and that is very important. It'll be the crux of what we discuss in a minute. Does she really have to meet it by 10 o'clock on Friday? Of course not. If she said by 11:30 in the morning, if she's like, all right, fine, I'll testify, will they be like, no, sorry, you missed the deadline? Both sides are trying to be tough guys when there's an issue, you know.
I think one side is trying to be tough guys. One side that's trying as hard as possible to push a confirmation through at any and all costs. But we'll get to that in just a minute. So by the way, Grassley is also calling for the unredacted version of the letter that Ford had sent to Feinstein about the alleged incident. I think that's fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Now, the response from Blasey's legal team, they have indicated that she would be willing to testify next week so long as senators offer, quote, terms that are fair and which ensure her safety. And that's according to an email that the lawmakers sent to committee staff members. But they also included the following message. Ford continues to believe that a full nonpartisan investigation of this matter is needed, and she is willing to cooperate with the committee. However, the committee's stated plan to move forward with a hearing that has only 2 witnesses is not a fair or good faith investigation. There are multiple witnesses whose names have appeared publicly and should be included in any proceeding. So there was another person named in these accusations, another person who allegedly witnessed this, according to Dr. Blasey's recollection of the alleged assault, and that was Mark Judge. And so I think it makes sense for Mark Judge to testify as well. And if he wants to deny it, okay, but do it under oath. One other thing, look, if you stand by Kavanaugh and you do not believe Dr. Blasey's allegations, wouldn't you want the FBI to get involved? Again, this wouldn't be a criminal investigation. This would be an investigation to look into the allegations and see if you can get to the bottom of the truth. But they don't want to do that, which I think is just fascinating.
So I think there are 3 different things that are factors here and different actors in the play. So there's the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, and then Dr. Blasey. So the Republican Party wants this to be resolved as soon as possible with as little stain on Kavanaugh as possible. As you're gonna see in a little bit, Grassley's staffers have already said, oh yeah, we know he's the right guy and he's the one telling the truth. Then why do you need the hearings? Okay, so you apparently made up your mind already. And of course they're playing politics, and of course they want Kavanaugh to get confirmed. And if they're worried that if there's a delay, it will go past the election, in which case Democrats might regain control of the Senate. Now, the Democrats are also playing politics, and the Democrats want to delay. It's true. And an FBI investigation would delay it longer. Now, Dr. Blasey, the person affected here, her interests are in a fair hearing. So she's saying, look, why don't you do a nonpartisan investigation? And the FBI is not partisan. And it's a background check. They've done one on Kavanaugh before. They've done one on every one of these Supreme Court justices. And they have done new checks when new information came out, as they did with Clarence Thomas in the Anita Hill controversy. So, and I'm asking you to have hearings where we hear from other witnesses, and you might have more witnesses if you allow the FBI to investigate it. Chuck Grassley turns around and says, oh, no. The FBI, quote, does not make a credibility assessment of any information it receives with respect to a nominee. No.
Which is a lie.
No, well, it's a half a lie. Yes, the FBI does not do the credibility assessment, the Senate does. But the FBI collects the information for you to be able to do the credibility assessment. So Grassley is either saying the FBI is never involved in this process, which would be, to Anna's point, a total lie, or he's saying the FBI is normally involved, but I don't want them involved in this case because I don't want new information to assess.
Look, my point in arguing that he's lying is that he's trying to make it seem as though it's unusual for the FBI to get involved in this process, when it is not unusual at all, at all. That is exactly what happened in the Anita Hill hearings. And so they don't want to get to the bottom of the truth. They don't want to know. They don't want to add Mark Judge to this hearing. They don't want to hear his testimony. They don't want any of it. They don't want any part, because for them it is purely political. And yes, do Democrats have a political motive? Sure, right? But I don't care about what the intentions are. What I care about is what they're calling for, and what they're calling for is beyond reasonable. We're not talking about, a temporary position for someone. We're talking about a lifetime appointment as a Supreme Court justice. And so we need to do our due diligence. The Senate should want to do its due diligence and make sure that they're confirming the right person for that job. And that's not what they want to do.
And so the politicians' hypocrisy is, of course, as usual, maddening. So the same Mitch McConnells and Chuck Grassleys who said that we should wait 14 months and not have a single hearing on Merrick Garland to become the Supreme Court justice, now turn around and go, no, we have to do it immediately. Time is of the essence. How could they possibly delay this? This is an outrage. I mean, come on, guys. Even if you're a Republican, you have to say, well, they're obviously full of crap. I mean, they don't think time is of the essence. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited 14 months on Merrick Garland. So they're playing politics, period. Now, if Dr. Blasey's interests diverge from the Democrats, she shouldn't give a damn what the Democrats think. That's their job, is to play politics on the other side, okay? So, but right now, she wants a fair hearing. The Democrats want a longer hearing. They happen to be aligned on that. They don't have to be aligned, right? And if the Democrats thought they could delay by having some investigation that Dr. Blasey didn't want, she could say, no, I don't want that.
By the way, yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, Cenk, but I want to be clear with the audience about how I would personally react if the shoe was on the other foot, because I think that's important. Because for me, this isn't political. For me, this is about getting to the heart of the truth, right? If the shoe were on the other foot, we're still in the Obama administration, he nominates someone, and let's say a right-leaning accuser comes out and accuses a Supreme Court nominee of sexual assault, right? And that accuser calls for the FBI to get involved. Damn right I want the FBI involved.
Yeah.
Because I want to get to the heart of the truth, right? But that is not what they want.
Yeah. So, and so that's where we are today. So, but now the super important question is, will she go to testify on Monday? Because if she doesn't, they're now saying that they will probably cancel the hearings altogether. So I think she should go. We've had this debate or discussion before. I don't know where you stand on it today, Anna, but I think that there's a couple of different perspectives here. I think the Republicans have now circled the wagons and will get to say, hey, listen, we gave her a shot and she just wouldn't come. And that'll probably play okay in terms of politics, okay? So, but then when you turn to the actual substance of the issue, so how does that play out for Dr. Blasey, who's the potential victim here? Well, then she never gets to tell her side of the story, and Kavanaugh gets confirmed, and we're done with it. Well, I don't want that. Not that Kavanaugh not being confirmed. I don't want him confirmed for other reasons. He's pro-corruption. I can go on and on, right? But I want her side of the story told, and I don't want this to get railroaded. And it looks like the Republicans are going to do that. They feel like they've protected their PR flank enough that if she doesn't come, they are going to plow forward. And I don't think they should.
If they are unwilling to allow the FBI to look into this, I do not think she should testify. Wow. And let me be clear about why.
Okay.
Because under these conditions, when she does testify, they will smear her, okay? You will have a group of middle-aged to elderly men, okay, asking her all sorts of humiliating questions, very similar to what happened to Anita Hill, maybe worse. And I'm gonna give you an example of something that proves my point. They've made up their minds. They don't care about her testimony, okay? And to give you some evidence of that, let's go to graphic 7. So there's Mike Davis, who had recently tweeted something and then deleted it. He's the committee's chief staffer for nominations, and he tweeted twice overnight about his key role in the committee's review of Christine Blasey Ford's allegation, as well as criticism of Ford's attorneys and his desired outcome of the process. So here's what he had tweeted and then later deleted. Unfazed and determined, we will confirm Judge Kavanaugh, hashtag confirms Kavanaugh, hashtag SCOTUS. He also wrote, I personally question Judge Kavanaugh under penalty of felony and 5 years of imprisonment if he lies. I'm still waiting to hear back from the accuser's attorneys who can't find time between TV appearances to get back to me. Look, he's made up his mind. They have made up their mind. So, okay, so she's gonna go and testify for what? For what? So they can smear her publicly in front of everyone and make her out to be the bad guy because she came forward with these allegations?
So, look, I'll make the case against that, and then I'll help your case a little bit in some factors. But I want everybody to know you guys can participate in this too. We brought the polls back because this is such an important question, and I, as always, genuinely care what you guys think about this. I'm curious what you guys think about this. So it's tyt.com/poll. Should Christine Blasey testify in the Kavanaugh hearings on Monday? So yes or no, we'll have those options for you. It's very easy, tyt.com/poll. We'll have the link down below in the description box if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook. Okay, so Anna, I know that I'm not naive. It's not like the Republicans are like, Grassley's like, gee, I don't know which way I'm gonna go with this. This is the guy I wanted on the Supreme Court for a long time, and I'm, anti-choice, and I want him. I think he's going to overturn Roe versus Wade, but I care deeply about some sexual assault allegations. We didn't care when Trump did it. He didn't care where Roy Moore did it, et cetera, right? So of course they've made up their minds, but there are a couple of important senators that are still can be swayed, and they will decide whether this goes forward or not. So there's Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, who are Republicans who claim that they are pro-choice and that they are pro-women's rights. Jeff Flake, a little bit. Bob Corker, a tiny bit, could be in play in terms of those senators. Now, Flake and Corker are retiring, and they don't like Trump, so that gives you a tiny percentage chance that that they're genuinely listening, and if they have a good enough reason to believe her, that they might vote against Kavanaugh. Collins and Murkowski might lose their seats if they vote if they vote for Kavanaugh after hearing compelling testimony from Dr. Blasey. So it's not, I'm not thinking, oh my God, Mitch McConnell might change his mind. Of course not. Ted Cruz might change his mind. Of course not. But it depends on the testimony. And yes, will they attack her? Some of them will attack her probably viciously. Yes. But that also, it doesn't mean that they will win on those counts. The country will get to see it. And when the country sees it, the people who already hate, the idea that women can protect themselves and should have this equal rights, etc., will be like, yeah, we knew it. She once had a good time at a party somewhere else. Many years later, it's her fault. She had it coming, right? Yes, there are people already saying that. And there are people on the left who are decent people who won't see it that way at all. And there are people in the middle, like some Kansas moms that are out there who voted for Republicans in the past that'll see it and go, I relate to that. I think she was honest. And why are they attacking her like that? And that'll piss them off.
Well,
that is one way that it could play out. The only reason I give you all those options is because it is not a foregone conclusion. It's, you know what I'm saying?
So Collins appears to be, look, she's not strongly supporting Kavanaugh, but based on the comments I've seen from Collins, she seems more supportive than not. She talks about, speaking to Kavanaugh one-on-one and saying that the conversation was excellent. And so I don't know if any testimony is going to convince her. But you do make a compelling case. I don't know if I even really trust Flake and Corker, but we'll see, right? I just worry because if she agrees to do this on their terms, meaning the Republicans in the Senate Judiciary Committee, if she does it on their terms, they know what they're doing. They've already made up their mind. They're gonna smear her. And I'm worried that they'll smear her so effectively that it won't even matter that she's testifying. And the very people that you're hoping she'll swing or convince will remain supportive of Kavanaugh. That's what I'm concerned about. And so nothing will get accomplished. And they'll keep attacking her. They'll keep smearing her. And I think it makes all the sense in the world to just do the investigation. And the fact,
but they're not gonna do it. That's a fact.
And that's the thing. I'm so tired of constantly just accepting that. Like, these guys are terrible people and they don't want to do the investigation because it's all political for them. So, all right, we got to accept it. And now we got to decide. Now the ball's in her court. I know, we're in a tough spot. Like, what else do you do? But I'm just sick of caving to that.
So the 2 points that I'll make on your side is, it's easy for us to say she should do it, but we're not her. Look, she already had to go into hiding, and the attacks against her will be not only vicious and over the top, but potentially perpetual. Excuse me, we've barely seen her face now. But then everybody after these hearings, she'll be one of the most famous people in the country, and there will be a percentage of the right wing that will despise her and say, at a bare minimum, say terrible things about her. And look,
attack her family.
Look, they're still, remember, the thing that haunts me is the lunatics who believed in Alex Jones's Sandy Hook conspiracy. They made some of those family members the positives that are now suing him. They lost their 6-year-old kid in that tragedy, and they've had to move 7 times because lunatic right-wingers keep harassing them and threatening them, threatening their lives. So that's what she's got to look forward to for the rest of her life. And somehow people think she did this, what, for her own advantage? Are you insane? Okay, so it's easy for me to say she should do it, but it is a hell of a personal toll that it is gonna take. And then the other thing is, look, the other side also gets to participate. The Democrats could defend her. On the other hand, they're Democrats.
Oh yeah, Democrats have a great track record of being strong and defending people and doing the right thing.
I mean, that's the thing, right? If I was a Democratic senator on that committee,
we're here because of the Democrats. Like, let's just be honest about it. We're here because of the Democrats. Okay, I don't know how Republicans would have done it, but I guarantee you that if they were in Obama's shoes and they had the ability to nominate someone with 14 months left till the election, they would have done something. I don't know what trick they would pull out of their back pocket.
It's super easy.
They would have gotten it done.
They would have done what they did with Gorsuch. They would have just killed the filibuster immediately. We're done with it, and now we have the seat. What are you going to do about it? It took like a second for them to do that. God, the Democrats are such suckers, and on purpose. We've talked about it before. So if there was a strong progressive on that committee, they'd say, not on my watch, and and they'd counterattack and they would defend. But these are the Democrats, so you will get a tepid defense very likely. And so you're going into a lines. I acknowledge all this, Anna. You're going into a lines then, and you've got these weak sauce senators who are on your theoretically kind of, I say on your side, but not really. They're on their side, right? And so they have a different agenda than she does. So that's another factor. But all that being said, this is your only chance to tell the story. And this is the chance to make a difference. And so if it happened, you gotta go tell the truth there. You gotta tell people what happened so that we don't have a lifetime appointment go in the wrong direction. So that's why I vote yes. There's only one vote that matters, which is hers. But it is a tough case. That's why we're interested in what you think.
And it also sets an example for other women who might have been victimized in a similar way, right? If you're gonna come forward and you're gonna challenge someone in a position of power by bringing forth allegations like this, you're the one who will be punished. 100% guaranteed.
But on the other hand, it also gives you an opportunity to finally fight back. And I don't know that it's gonna make a difference at the end, and I can't promise that, but all you can do is give your side, give your case, and fight, and at least that is a form of justice. So I hope that is what happens, and that people get to hear from both sides, and that we, to the best of our abilities, through this terrible political system that we have, unfortunately, where no one cares about the truth anymore. They care what their donors want, and and they have their marching orders, and 98% of them are never going to change their minds, no matter what the facts are. But maybe we just arrive at a little bit more truth and justice if she testifies.
Let's take a break. When we come back, more updates on the Kavanaugh story, and later on we will discuss the spending bill that the Senate just signed off on.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Lots of comments. YouTube super chat, real quick. Lazarus says, Dr. Ford is asking for the smallest thing when demanding an investigation. I don't want a Supreme Court justice who has potential allegation. Who knows what else they might find with a fine-tooth comb? And in fact, of course, that's exactly what they might be afraid of. Now I'm going to read a bunch of member comments. Rebel Dragon says, the third person in the room doesn't want to testify because he knows under oath he would have to testify to not recalling the incident, but he can't confirm that it didn't happen based on his drinking and blackout history. That's an interesting take on it. That's on Mike Judge, who was the third person in the room who's backing Kavanaugh, but says he doesn't recall. Vicious Cree says, and this one I relate to the most, if I was innocent and knew it, to the effect that I rounded up 60+ character witnesses to try to back me up, that's the letter that they did, I'd be begging for an investigation in an effort to clear my name. Kavanaugh acts guilty because he is. So I don't know, of course, for a fact that he is, but I would want if I thought the investigators were honest, I would definitely want an investigation.
Absolutely, because look, without the investigation, let's say the Republicans get exactly what they want, he gets confirmed, right? If he didn't do it, you have a huge portion of the country believing that you did because there was no investigation done to clear your name.
Yeah. Winnipeg Craig says Ford testifying isn't just about his nomination. It's about forcing the Republicans to show who they are to the public. It's about every future nomination and election too. Now, I wouldn't blame her if she decides not to, but if she does, she could change the future of the country. Okay, thank you guys. Great comments by the members as usual. And if you would like your comments moved up, then become a member as well, tyt.com/join. We're trying to give more and more benefits to membership, including behind the scenes. So we've done a lot of super fun behind the scenes videos that you guys should check out too if you're a member. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. The smears aimed at Dr. Christine Blasey Ford continue, and the latest example was in the form of a blog post, an anonymous blog post that Dinesh D'Souza decided to tweet out. And all it does is essentially slut shame the accuser and also other female students who went to the all-girls school that Dr. Blasey went to, Holton Arms. Now, D'Souza tweeted the following: "No one in the media is covering the culture of hookups and binge drinking the accuser was part of. By the way, no evidence that she was part of that. Here's what they're trying to cover up." And in that tweet, he links to a blog post. This is not a news article. This was not something written by the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN. It's a blog post, okay? And it's for this website called The Cult of the First Amendment. D'Souza tweeted that link to this article, and it accused the Kavanaugh Accuser of taking part in binge drinking and promiscuity while in high school. No evidence of that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, Anna emphasizes blog posts, not because you can't have perfectly good opinions in a blog, etc., but there's no evidence in there. So he's linking to it as if it's an authoritative source. What he's linking to is some dude's opinion backed up by no evidence at all.
No evidence. So if you read through it, I mean, I encourage you, go ahead, read through it, okay? There is nothing linking Dr. Blasey to these allegations. And even if it did, even if there was evidence that she was drinking or having a good time or partying in high school, who cares? Who cares? You think that that's enough to clear Kavanaugh of any wrongdoing? Look at how, this is what I mean when I urge conservative women to really reconsider the political party they're supporting, okay? Sometimes I've said that in not so nice terms, but let me just try to be as diplomatic as possible. This is what they think of you. If you were a victim of sexual assault and you come forward with your allegations, they are going to pore over your past to see if there's anything they can use to smear you, including partying, which is something that everyone does when they're younger. So if you've ever partied in your life, then what, you deserve to be sexually assaulted? I don't get it.
And by the way, they found nothing on her. So Donald Trump Jr. retweeted this. He thinks it's, oh yeah, let's go smear her. That's great. Now, in the blog post, they talk about the clothes that other girls in that high school wore back then. So they don't have any pictures of Dr. Blasey. They don't have anything on Dr. Blasey. First of all, they looked and they couldn't find anything on Dr. Blasey. Let's just note that, okay? So whenever they go to do these smear jobs, if they got a tiny little thing, that means they looked and looked and looked and couldn't find a big thing. In this case, they couldn't find anything. So they did guilt by association. But is it even guilt? So they're questioning what the girls wore when they were 15 or 16 from back in 1983.
It's amazing.
So does that mean that if they wore the wrong kind of skirt, that somebody could rape them? What? No, I really want to know the logic.
Yeah.
I want to know the logic. That when they were 17, if they drank at a party, does that mean that any guy in that party could rape them?
Well, what they're trying to do is make it seem as though, well, the girls who went to this school were promiscuous, okay? They were sexually, so if this happened, it was because she wanted it. That's the way that it gets interpreted, right? That's what he's implying. There was drinking, there was promiscuity, so she wanted it. It was probably a consensual thing. So they're trying all different avenues at attacking her.
Every high school has some degree of drinking and some degree of promiscuity. That isn't the issue. For example, we have now said 1,000 times in the last 4 or 5 days that Kavanaugh drank a lot in high school. We don't care. That isn't the issue at all. A lot of people drank in high school. That's not the issue. The issue is what he did on that day, which appears to be, the allegations are, of attempted rape. That matters, not the drinking. So not what she wore that day, not if she had a drink, not if he had a drink. We're not going back to 1983 and judging every little minutia of either side. We're talking about only, and by the way, we have excellent credibility on this because on the very first day before we knew what it was, we all said, it depends on what he did. It was high school. If it was a small thing, a mid-sized thing, you can't go all the way back to high school. It would have to cross a very high bar. That's literally what we said on day one. And it turns out it was attempted rape. That crosses the high bar. So what do? They say, oh yeah, you guys are going back there? Oh yeah, well then, I'm gonna go back there and judge everything they did. Not her, but did anybody else at that high school ever have a drink? Did they ever wear the wrong kind of skirt? Are you kidding me? So that's who they are.
Yeah, and look, this is just my opinion, but I wouldn't use a convicted felon as an arbiter of criminality, ever. So it's very ironic that he thinks that he could be the judgment of good behavior. I mean, this guy is a convicted felon, period.
Yeah, that's Dinesh D'Souza. He went to jail over it. Of course, another lifelong criminal eventually pardoned him. That's Donald Trump Jr.'s father, obviously. But no, he was convicted and he went to jail, and he's a felon. And so, but the Republicans still talk about him like, oh well, he did a movie about the corruption of Hillary Clinton. Do you know what Dinesh D'Souza went to jail for? Corruption. He violated campaign finance laws and tried to get around them and give more money than he was allowed to give to a candidate that he liked. There's a colloquial word for that. It's called corruption. But they're like, oh, bravo, the corruption of Hillary Clinton, Dinesh D'Souza. They think that they're the party that is of family values and morality. And here they are trying to excuse attempted rape because young girls had it coming because they also at some point drank at a party. It's effing gross, man.
All right. A lot of attention is being paid on, let me start that again. A lot of attention is being paid toward Senator Susan Collins, whether or not as a moderate Republican, she would be willing to vote in favor of the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. Now, she says that things have gotten a little too difficult, a little too heated, and she's dealing with threats. And a Democratic lawmaker mocked those threats. And we're gonna get to that in just a minute. But before we do, I want you to hear from Susan Collins yourselves and hear what she has to say about those threats. Take a listen.
That's just not a good way for us to end. So I think she needs to come forward, and I think we need to provide her with any protection that she may ask for herself and her family. I would note that Judge Kavanaugh also has received some threats, and goodness knows, and I don't mean to equate myself with either of them, but my office has received some pretty ugly voicemails, threats, terrible things said to my staff. And so this has been a very ugly process, and I think that's very unfortunate.
So remember that Senator Collins is a moderate Republican. Everyone's pretty unsure as to how she's gonna vote in these confirmation hearings. And so I just give you that note because while I believe that she is getting threats, I mean, in today's political climate is definitely possible, there's no indication that those threats are only coming from liberals or only coming from Republicans. There are conservatives in the country who really want Judge Kavanaugh to be confirmed. And so I think that there's some panic involving Collins and whether or not she would vote in favor of his confirmation. So just keep that in mind. But then you have Representative Eric Swalwell, a Democrat from California, and he heard about these threats and decided to share his own opinions on them and got a lot of heat for it. So he said the following on Twitter: "Boo hoo hoo, you're a senator whose police will protect. A sexual assault victim can't sleep in her home tonight because of threats. Where are you sleeping? Ford's on her own while you and your Senate GOP colleagues tried to rush her through a hearing." So he later deleted and apologized for those tweets because they were interpreted as mocking the fact that Collins is dealing with threats. But with that said, while I think it should be taken seriously that she is dealing with threats, the heart of what he's saying there is right. I mean, you have the accuser here, Dr. Blasey, in hiding. She had to move out of her home. Her family is afraid. She had to hire private security. And so, yeah, there are death threats all around the country at all times. But people like Blasey Ford don't get the protection that someone like Susan Collins gets.
So, first of all, Anna's right. We have no idea if right-wingers might have been calling in to say, don't you dare vote against Kavanaugh. They're the ones that far more consistently threaten violence, do violence, because they believe in violence. As progressives, we don't believe in violence. And so if you are a progressive who called in, don't ever threaten violence. Now, by the way, we actually have no idea if anyone on the right or the left threatened violence at all. They just, her office, and you heard her, the senator herself say it, but her office also said the same thing, that the calls and messages were, quote, ugly and abusive. That could mean anything. That could mean I don't like you, or what. And so now we're stuck in a situation where there's two different rules. And so on the one hand, I don't want anybody to threaten violence ever against anyone, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Now, on the other hand, we and online and all of you who've ever dealt with any trolls or anybody online gets threatened nonstop and no one cares. So there's this uneven rules. If you touch someone inside the club and you were not quite so nice on a voicemail, then it's a 5-alarm fire. And if anybody ever says anything about it, the club gets super mad and they're like, how dare you? That's our beloved Susan Collins, right? Whereas everyone else online can be viciously attacked nonstop, death threats galore, and no one in the club cares. That's just you guys.
So I'll give you guys an example. And I think this is one of the more important examples because these are people who were already victimized. The parents who lost their young son in the Sandy Hook shooting. After Alex Jones accused them of being crisis actors and accused this of all being a false flag operation to take guns away from Americans, they were harassed so incessantly that they had to move 7 times. And by the way, do you think there's anyone helping them financially to do that? Do you think there's anyone protecting them? They had to move not only 7 times, but finally they ended up in a secure community, a gated community with extra security just so they can stay safe because the threats were so specific. And that's the reason why they're now suing Alex Jones for the defamatory claims he was making on his show. But I bring that up because they're on their own, right? Whereas, you know, you're a US senator, you're not on your own. You get that protection added as part of your job. And I'm glad that you get that protection. But the 5-alarm fire, as Cenk mentioned, is just fascinating coming from someone who has that extra security.
And sometimes it's used as a ruse. I don't think in this case it is. I think Collins has been so sheltered in her life that I don't know if she's ever gotten an angry comment in her life because they live in such a bubble, right? But you know, there's a Democratic candidate in the middle of the country, this woman running, and a couple of times people have taken a shot at her. What they're unaware of is there are right-wing fanatics in this country who believe in violence and they threaten it all the time. And so if you do it against a senator, you're gonna be in a world of trouble because they're powerful, they're rich, they're elite, okay? You do it against somebody who's just a candidate, who's running in the middle of the country, man, she's on her own. You know, you do it to the Sandy Hook parents, they're on their own. I pulled a random video to make this point earlier on a similar story where I just looked through a couple of pages of comments on one of our YouTube videos, and there's 60,000 of them, on just one. And we had half a dozen death threats on just 2 pages of one video. And every video has dozens and dozens of pages of comments. And so, is anybody here to protect anybody online? No, you're on your own, right? So that's why when someone leaves a quote unquote ugly comment on the voicemail of an elite, all of a sudden the elites are like, how dare you? We must protect the elites. But the rest of you, good luck. So that's what's frustrating. Susan Collins should be protected, so should the rest of us. But unfortunately, that doesn't exist, and in this case, and to be fair to Susan Collins, again, no disrespect towards her. I don't want anybody to threaten her in any way, shape, or form. And in this case, she's saying, hey, we should go protect Dr. Blasey too.
Right.
And you heard her on the tapes.
Yes.
Yeah, to her credit. She said we should provide security, and they should. The government should have stepped up immediately to provide her security. But they should on many instances. There's a case to be made that they should do it for the Sandy Hook parents. They definitely should do it for that candidate in the country, and I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican. If people are endangering your life, then the government needs to protect you. That's the whole point of the government.
Right. For me, this is much less about Susan Collins, but more about the double standard, and the differences in treatment when it comes to the elite versus the rest of us.
And so if that's why Swalwell had a world of hurt poured on his head when he said this, and then he had to backpedal and said it was stupid, and he apologized. If he'd done it to a regular person, nobody would have cared.
Yeah. All right. We got to take a break. But when we come back, we have a different Susan Collins story that I think is important. This one has to do with her own double standard in regard to money in politics. Loves it when it supports her, hates it when it doesn't.
Yes. Now, if you thought I was angry about the Dinesh D'Souza story or this story, wait till you get a load of me on that next story. Become a member to get the whole show, tyt.com/join. That goes to the heart of what gets me the most angry. And here we kind of halfway defended her. There, we will not be defending her at all because she proves what an elitist she is and how ridiculous this whole system is. All right, we'll come right back.